The testing hall on Kepler 7 station stretched wide enough to hold 300 candidates from across the known galaxy. Senior evaluator Tixron stood at the front of the massive chamber, his four eyes scanning the assembled hopefuls with the patience of someone who had conducted this ceremony for 73 cycles. The Queller Instructor's skin shifted through shades of blue and purple, indicating his formal mood as he held up the ornate box that would determine which candidates truly deserved entry into the Galactic Academy. "This," Tixron announced, his voice carrying through translation devices implanted in every candidate's auditory system, "is the quantum resonance puzzle box. Crafted by the ancient architects over 12,000 cycles ago." The box gleamed under the hall's lighting, its surface covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change, depending on the angle of observation. Candidates leaned forward in their seats, some with multiple eyes widening, others with sensory appendages quivering in anticipation among the Vrexian warriors with their crystalline exoskeletons, the floating Falrine collective fragments, and the sleek Korath merchants. One human sat near the back row. Corporal Jake Reeves had arrived on the station 3 days prior, one of only 5 humans to ever apply to the Academy in the 20 years since. First contactee wore simple clothes compared to the elaborate garments of other species, just a worn jacket over a basic shirt and pants that had seen better days. His hands bore calluses and small scars, the kind that came from years of working with tools and machinery. Tixran continued his explanation, unaware that Jake had already stood and was making his way down the aisle between seats. "The puzzle has 17 interlocking mechanisms, each requiring a different approach to unlock," the instructor said. "The fastest recorded solution time stands at 6 hours and 12 minutes. Achieved by a synthetic intelligence collective working in perfect coordination. Most candidates require several days. Some never solve it at all." Jake reached the front podium just as Tixron finished speaking. The instructor's eyes shifted to regard the human with mild surprise. "Candidate Reeves," Tixron said, "the examination period has not yet. May I?" Jake gestured toward the box. Tixran's skin rippled with uncertainty, but protocol demanded he allow any candidate to attempt the challenge once it had been presented. He handed the box to Jake with 2 of his 4 arms. Jake took it, turning it over in his hands with a casual familiarity that made several candidates exchange worried glances. His fingers traced the symbols. Feeling the texture and weight distribution, he tilted his head, listening as he gently shook the box. Then his hands began to move first. He pressed 3 symbols in a sequence that made part of the box rotate 15 degrees. A Korath candidate gasped. It had taken her 2 hours to discover that initial rotation in her practice sessions. Jake's thumb found a hidden depression on one edge and pushed while simultaneously pulling a raised symbol on the opposite face. Something inside the box clicked. The human's movements became faster, more confident. Press, twist, slide, rotate. His fingers seemed to dance across the surface, finding catches and releases that had stumped generations of the galaxy's brightest minds. Commander Crow, a Vrexian warrior scholar who had spent 4 hours solving the puzzle in his own entrance exam, stood from his seat, his crystalline face reflecting disbelief. The Thalrine fragment designated Unit 7 extended sensory tendrils. Trying to understand what computational approach the human was using. 40 seconds had passed. Jake pressed 2 symbols simultaneously while rotating the entire box counterclockwise. The box began to emit a low hum, the harmonic frequency that indicated the final mechanism was ready to unlock. 45 seconds. He aligned 3 panels that had seemed decorative, creating a complete circuit of symbols around the box's equator. The hum increased in pitch. 37 seconds. Jake pressed the top and bottom of the box together with both palms, applying pressure in a rhythm. 3 short pulses, 1 long. Too short, the quantum resonance puzzle box bloomed open like a flower, its 17 mechanisms unlocking in a cascading sequence of clicks and chimes. Golden light spilled from within, the traditional signal of a successful solution. The testing hall erupted into chaos. "Impossible!" shrieked the Felorian candidate, her leaves rustling with agitation. "He must have cheated," declared another voice. "No one solves it in less than an hour." Tixron stood frozen, all four eyes fixed on the open box in Jake's hands. The human hadn't even broken a sweat. Jake set the box gently on the podium and shrugged, a gesture that translated poorly to most species present, but conveyed his nonchalance clearly enough. "It's just a derivative of a Babylonian seal lock combined with harmonic frequency." "Matching," he said. "We had toys like this when I was a kid." "Toys?" Tixran's voice came out as barely a whisper. "Yeah, combination locks, puzzle boxes, Rubik's Cubes," Jake said. "This one's more elaborate." "Sure, but the principles are the same. The weight distribution told me where the internal mechanisms were located. The symbols aren't random. They follow a mathematical progression based on prime numbers. And the harmonic resonance at the end is just finding the right frequency. Like tuning a guitar." Commander Krell's voice boomed across the hall. "You expect us to believe your primitive species casually plays with devices equivalent to our most sacred testing instruments?" Jake turned to face the Vrexian, his expression neutral, not equivalent, he said. "Simpler. Actually, yours has more moving parts, but it's based on the same core concepts we've been using for thousands of years. When you're stuck on one planet for your entire evolutionary history, you spend a lot of time making puzzles to solve." Tixron finally found his voice, though his skin had shifted to a pale white that indicated shock. "Candidate Reeves, you will remain here," he said. "I must consult with the Academy administration immediately. Security. Ensure no one leaves this hall. All recording devices are to be sealed and examined." 2 security officers, both from species Jake didn't recognize, moved to flank him. He raised his hands in a peaceful gesture and returned to his seat. The other candidates stared at him with expressions ranging from awe to outrage to fear as Tixron hurried from the hall with the open puzzle box. Jake sat down for the first time since entering the chamber had solved the galaxy's greatest entrance examination challenge before he'd even taken his seat. He had a feeling this was going to complicate things. What he didn't knows just how much the galaxy feared a species that could unravel their mysteries as easily as a child's tour, or what lengths some would go to keep humanity from rising too high, too fast. The isolation chamber was comfortable enough. Jake supposed a bed that adjusted to his biology, a food synthesizer programmed with human nutritional requirements, and a window showing the stars beyond. Kepler 7 station. What it didn't have was a door he could open from the inside it air for 18 hours. While the Academy administration reviewed every second of recording from the testing hall, Jake sat on the edge of the bed, examining his hands, the same hands that had reassembled engine cores in combat zones, diffused improvised explosives, and hot-wired alien technology during the resource wars back on Earth to him. The puzzle box had been interesting, but not particularly challenging. He wondered if that was the problem in the administrative chamber 3 levels above. Senior Evaluator Tixron stood before a council of 7 Academy officials representing the major galactic powers. Holographic displays showed Jake's solution from 17 different angles, slowed down to 1/10 speed. "There is no evidence of technological assistance," declared Magistrate Vertine, a Korath whose golden skin reflected the harsh lighting. "No energy signatures, no quantum entanglement with external devices, no neural enhancement beyond standard human baselines." "Then how?" demanded council member Shrix, a Thalrine whose collective consciousness occupied 3 bodies. Simultaneously, the puzzle box has stood as our primary filtering mechanism for 260 cycles. It tests spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, mathematical intuition, and patience. No individual has ever solved it in under 6 hours. Tixron's skin had settled into a thoughtful green. I reviewed the human's explanation. He said, his species history is unlike any we have encountered. They spent approximately 12,000 of their years confined to a single planet, unable to achieve faster-than-light travel without outside intervention. 12,000 years, Shrix repeated. Our 3 bodies speaking in harmony. Most species develop interstellar capability within 4,000 years of achieving industrial technology. What were they doing for the other 8,000? Tixron activated a new display, showing images from Earth's database, fighting each other, he said, constantly, creating increasingly complex weapons, codes, and defensive systems, but also creating games, puzzles, and intellectual challenges for entertainment. The council members watched as images scrolled past chessboards, crossword puzzles, cryptographic machines, mechanical locks of bewildering complexity. They built devices specifically designed to be difficult to open. Tixron continued. They created mathematical challenges for amusement. They even had competitions where individuals would race to solve mechanical puzzles, with the fastest times measured in seconds. Their neural architecture evolved under constant pressure to outthink threats, to see patterns faster than their enemies, to solve problems with insufficient data. Magistrate Vertine's expression hardened. You're saying they're naturally suited to exactly the type of challenge we use to filter candidates? I'm saying they're a species of problem solvers who had nothing but problems to solve for thousands of years. Tixron replied. No wonder the human found our test trivial. Commander Krell had been listening from the observation gallery, his crystalline form glinting as he shifted his weight. This is unacceptable, he said, his voice resonating through the chamber. I spent 4 hours on that puzzle. 4 hours of careful analysis and methodical approach. I was praised for my speed and insight. Now you tell me a human, a species barely out of their home system, solved it in less than a minute? It diminishes us all, agreed a Felorian council member. Her leaves rustling with agitation, Tixran turned to face Krell directly. Does it diminish you, Commander? He asked. Or does it reveal that we have been measuring candidates against the wrong standard? The puzzle box was designed to test patience and methodical thinking because those are the traits our species value. But what if speed and intuitive pattern recognition are equally valid approaches? The Academy exists to train the best minds in the galaxy. Vertine interjected, if we allow one human to pass based on a fluke, it wasn't a fluke. Tixron said firmly, I have spent the past day reviewing every puzzle and lock design in Earth's historical database. The Babylonian seal locks the human referenced. They're 3,000 years old and require understanding of internal mechanism interaction. The Rubik's Cube he mentioned? Humans have solved it in less than 5 seconds. 5 seconds for a puzzle with 43 quintillion possible combinations. The chamber fell silent. Shrix's 3 bodies conferred with themselves in rapid clicking sounds. What are you proposing? Evaluator? One of her bodies finally asked, I propose we admit candidate Reeves to the Academy as planned. Tixron said, and I propose we observe him carefully. If he truly represents his species' baseline capabilities, then we need to understand what humanity's presence will mean for the galactic community. Vertine's skin flashed with anger. You want to welcome a potential threat into our most prestigious institution? I want to understand what they're capable of. Tixron replied. Better to have them where we can observe and interact with them than to drive them away in ignorance and fear. The vote was close, but ultimately, the Council agreed Jake Reeves would be admitted to the Galactic Academy down in the isolation chamber. Jake heard the door mechanism unlock. Tixran entered, his four eyes regarding the human with new interest. "You have been cleared of any wrongdoing," the instructor said. "You will begin classes tomorrow with the other accepted candidates." Jake stood, relief evident on his face. "Thank you, Senior Evaluator. I was starting to think, however," Tixran interrupted. "You should know that your demonstration has created significant controversy. Many believe your species represents an unpredictable element in galactic society. Some fear what humans might be capable of if you can solve our greatest challenges so easily." Jake's expression shifted to something more guarded. "We're not a threat," he said. "We're just good at figuring things out. It's how we survived on Earth. Perhaps," Tixran said, "but survival skills and combat training often overlap, do they not?" The question hung in the air between them. "I've reviewed your military record. Corporal Reeves, explosive ordnance disposal, mechanical engineering, tactical analysis. You've spent your life solving deadly puzzles under pressure." "That's different," Jake said. "Is it?" Tixran asked. "A puzzle box, a bomb, a locked door to a human mind. Are these not all just problems to be solved?" Jake had no answer for that. Tixran's skin shifted to a warm orange, a gesture of reassurance. "I am not your enemy, Candidate Reeves," he said, "but you must understand that you carry the reputation of your entire species here. How you perform, how you interact with others, how you handle challenges, all of this will shape how the galaxy views humanity. No pressure." "Then," Jake said with a weak smile. "Indeed," Tixran replied, though he didn't understand the human expression. "Your first class begins at the 8th hour tomorrow. I suggest you prepare yourself. The puzzle box was merely the entrance examination. The real challenges begin now." As Tixran left, Jake sat back down on the bed and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, home to 8 billion humans who probably had no idea that their collective reputation now rested on one former combat engineer's ability to navigate alien academia without making enemies defuse bombs with less pressure than this. But he'd never backed down from a challenge before, and he wasn't about to start now, even if half the galaxy was watching him, waiting for him to either prove humanity's worth or confirm their fears. Jake allowed himself a moment of doubt, then pushed it aside. He had work to do. The Academy's curriculum was designed to break candidates down and rebuild them as proper galactic citizens. Jake discovered this on his third day, when he failed his first examination in xenobiological systems analysis. The test required identifying 17 different species by their cellular structure alone, something most candidates could do by instinct or prior exposure. Humans had met exactly 8 alien species in total, and Jay could barely tell them apart with a full visual reference. He stared at the holographic display showing microscopic organisms and felt completely lost. "Time has concluded," announced the testing AI candidate Reeves. 4 correct identifications out of 17. Assessment inadequate. Jake rubbed his eyes and joined the other students filing out of the examination chamber. Commander Krell stood near the exit. His crystalline features, arranged in what Jake had learned was a Rexian expression of satisfaction. "Struggling, human?" Krell asked. "We can't all be experts at everything," Jake replied evenly. "No," Krell agreed. "But those who solve sacred puzzles in seconds should at least manage basic biological identification. Perhaps your species' reputation is built on luck rather than skill." Jake bit back a response and kept walking. Getting into arguments wouldn't help humanities. Imogen found an empty study alcove and pulled up the course materials, determined to improve. Hours later, a soft rustling sound interrupted his concentration. Sight, a Felorian botanist, stood at the entrance to the alcove. Her leaf-like appendages shifted nervously, displaying patterns of pale yellow that Jake had learned indicated uncertainty. "Candidate Reeves," she said, her voice like wind through grass. "May I join you?" Jake gestured to the seat across from him. "Sure. Call me Jake." Silith settled into the chair, a root-like lower body adjusting to the furniture. "I wanted to apologize for the others," she said. "Many are uncomfortable with your presence, I've noticed." Jake said Sile's leaves shifted to a sympathetic green. "My species understands being underestimated," she said. "Felorians are considered decorative by many, useful only for botanical research. They forget we navigated our planet's toxic ecosystems for thousands of years. Survival requires intelligence, regardless of appearance." Jake smiled. "Thanks for that. I wanted to offer a trade." Silith continued. "I can help you with biological identification. My species has natural sensitivity to cellular structures. In exchange, perhaps you could help me with the Applied Systems Logic course. I find the mechanical puzzles quite challenging." "Deal," Jake said immediately. Over the following weeks, an unlikely friendship formed. Silith would spend evenings teaching Jake the subtle differences between species' cellular structures, sharing memory techniques her people used in return. Jake would walk her through mechanical problems, showing her how to see systems as interconnected parts rather than isolated components. "You think differently," Silith observed one evening as Jake solved a practice problem she'd been struggling with for days. "It's like you see the answer before working through the steps." "Pattern recognition," Jake explained. "Humans are really good at finding patterns, even in incomplete data. Sometimes too good. We see patterns that aren't really there. But with mechanical systems, there's usually a logic to follow." He gestured at the holographic display showing a complex energy distribution network. "See how these three nodes form a triangle? That's not random. Triangles are structurally stable, so the system probably uses them for load bearing, which means if you increase input here, the load distributes evenly across all 3 points," Silith finished, her leaves brightening with understanding. "Exactly. Their partnership didn't go unnoticed at Unit 7. The Thalrine fragment began sitting with them during group study sessions, its logical approach complementing Jake's intuition and Silith's methodical learning. Even Commander Crow, though still skeptical, stopped making openly hostile comments. The real test came during the midterm crisis simulation. All candidates were divided into teams of 4 and placed in virtual scenarios designed to test everything they'd learned. Jake's team consisted of himself, Crow, Unit 7, and Silith. Scenario loaded around them: a derelict mining station orbiting a gas giant, life support failing, automated defense systems active and hostile, and a ticking clock before the station's orbit degraded enough to send it into the planet's atmosphere. 72 minutes until orbital decay, Unit 7 announced. Its sensor tendrils processing data streams. Automated defenses show a standard Karath military pattern, upgraded with Rexian hardening protocols. Krell's crystalline body glowed with activation energy. "I know these systems," he said. "We must disable them through the central command node, which requires reaching the station core, but the defense grid blocks all direct approaches." Silith pulled up a map of the station. "There are maintenance tunnels, but they're too narrow for most species. I could navigate them, but I lack the technical knowledge to disable the defenses. We need to calculate the optimal path through the defensive fire." Unit 7 suggested, "My computational capacity can model 17,000 possible routes, but each calculation requires approximately 9 minutes. "We don't have 9 minutes," Jake said, his eyes fixed on the holographic station map. Something about the defense grid pattern bothered him. It looked familiar, like something he'd seen before. He zoomed out, looking at the overall structure rather than individual weapon placements. It's a game, he said suddenly. What? Krell demanded. The defense pattern. It's based on game theory, Jake explained, his hands moving rapidly across the interface. Specifically, it's a variation of the Nash equilibrium problem we covered in strategic systems. Class, look at the weapon placements. They're not optimized for maximum coverage. They're optimized to force attackers into predictable paths. Unit 7's tendrils quivered. That is an inefficient defensive strategy. Not if your goal is to funnel enemies into kill zones. Jake said, the gaps aren't weaknesses. They're traps. But if we know they're traps, we can avoid them by taking paths that appear more dangerous, but are actually safer. He traced a route on the map that went directly through the most heavily armed sections of the station. This path has overlapping fields of fire from 4 different weapon systems. Krell objected, but if you look at the timing, Jake highlighted the fire patterns. There are synchronization gaps every 18 seconds when all 4 systems reload simultaneously. We'd have to move fast. But it's a straight shot to the core. Silith's leaves shifted to worried orange. That requires precise timing. One mistake, and we fail the simulation. Trust me, Jake said. This is exactly like speedrunning old Earth video games. You memorize the pattern, exploit the gaps, and move decisively. Krell studied the pattern, his tactical experience evaluating Jake's analysis finally. His body pulsed with grudging approval. The human is correct, he said. This path is theoretically viable. I will take point. My crystalline structure can absorb limited weapons fire if timing is imperfect. They executed the plan Krell led, his body absorbing 2 glancing hits when their timing was off by milliseconds. Unit 7 followed. Calculating exact movement speed, Sylph stayed close. Her smaller form, easy to protect, Jake brought up the rear, calling out timing adjustments as the defensive patterns shifted. They reached the core with 41 minutes remaining, while Unit 7 and Silith worked to restore life support. Jake and Krell disabled the defense grid. The simulation ended with their team ranked first out of 32 groups as they exited the simulation chamber. Krell approached Jake. The Vrexian's body language suggested reluctant respect. Your pattern recognition proved valuable, Krell admitted. Perhaps there is merit to human cognitive approaches after all. Thanks, Jake said. Your tactical knowledge made the plan work. And your ability to absorb those hits saved us. Krell's crystalline features shifted into something that might have been a smile. We function well as a team, he acknowledged. An unexpected outcome as they walked to the debriefing session. Jake felt something he hadn't experienced since arriving at the academy. Acceptance, not from everyone, certainly, but his team had learned to trust his abilities. And he'd learned to trust theirs. Different species, different strengths, working together toward common goals. Maybe that was the real lesson the academy wanted to teach, or maybe, Jake thought, as he noticed Magistrate Vertine watching from an observation window above. Some people would never accept humanity's presence. The Karth official's expression was cold and calculating. Jake had seen that look before. On the faces of enemies, trying to determine his weakness. Shed made all eyes at the academy. But he'd also made enemies, and something told him the real tests were only beginning. The attack on Silith came during the sleep cycle. When most students had retired to their quarters, Jake found her in the botanical research lab, where she often worked late. Her leaves torn and wilting, her root system damaged. Who did this? Jake demanded, already reaching for the emergency medical kit. Silith. His voice came weak and trembling. I don't know. They wore environmental suits with no identification. They said. She paused, her leaves shuddering. They said this was a warning, that helping you was a mistake, that humanity doesn't belong here. Jake's hands worked carefully. applying the nutrient gel that Felorians needed for tissue repair. His mind raced with anger and calculation. This wasn't random, this was targeted. "I'm calling security," he said. "No," Silith said quickly. "That will only make things worse. Please." "Jake, I just want to heal and forget this happened." But Jake couldn't forget. He helped Silith back to her quarters and ensured she was stable. Then returned to his own room. Sleep wouldn't come. Someone at the academy was willing to hurt innocent students to get at him. That meant this was bigger than just rivalry or resentment. The next morning, Jake went to Senior Evaluator Tixron's office. The instructor listened carefully as Jake described the attack. "I have no proof," Jake admitted. "But Silith isn't the type to make enemies. This was about her connection to me." Tixron's skin shifted through troubled colors. "I will investigate," he said. "But you must understand the political complexity of this situation. Many powerful individuals view humanity as a threat. Some within the academy itself." "Who?" Jake asked. Tixron's hesitation told Jake everything he needed to know. "You can't say," Jake concluded, "or you won't. I am constrained by academy politics." Tixron admitted, "But I can tell you this. Be careful who you trust. Not every instructor here supports your presence." Jake left the office more frustrated than when he'd entered. He needed information. Needed to understand who was behind the attack and why. That evening, he found Commander Krell in the tactical simulation room. The Vrexian was running combat scenarios, his crystalline body moving through virtual battles with practiced efficiency. "Krell," Jake said, "I need your help." The Vrexian paused his simulation. "What manner of help?" Jake explained about Silith, about the warning, about his suspicions. Krell's body darkened with anger. "Attacking a non-combatant is without honor," he said. "I will assist you. My family has connections within Academy security." Over the next week, Jake and Krell conducted a quiet investigation. At 7 joined them, using its computational abilities to analyze security footage and identify gaps in coverage. They discovered that the attack on Silith coincided with a scheduled maintenance window when certain cameras were offline. Professional work, not random violence. Then Jake noticed something in his own academic records. 3 of his assignments had been flagged for potential violations: plagiarism, unauthorized collaboration, improper use of academy resources, all false accusations, but each requiring time-consuming appeals to clear. Someone was trying to build a case against him. "They're attempting to expel you," Unit 7 observed, its tendrils flickering through data streams. 3 violations result in automatic dismissal from the academy. You currently have 3 pending investigations. "Let me guess," Jake said. "All 3 were filed by the same person?" "Magistrate Vertine," Krell confirmed. "He sits on the disciplinary committee. He has influence over investigation outcomes." Jake felt pieces clicking into place in his mind. "He's building a narrative," he said. "Human student can't handle academy standards, cheats, gets expelled. It reinforces the idea that we don't belong here." "The why attack Silith?" Krell asked. "To isolate Jake," Unit 7 answered. "Remove his support network. Make him appear unstable or dangerous when he protests the false accusations." Classic discrediting strategy. Jake's jaw tightened. "We need proof." "Vertine is too careful," Krell said. "He will have covered his tracks. Everyone makes mistakes." Jake replied, "We just need to find his." He spent the next 3 days barely sleeping, reviewing every file, every communication log, every piece of academy documentation he could access. His pattern recognition abilities worked overtime, looking for connections others might miss. In the 4th day, he found a series of encrypted communications between Vertine and several other academy officials. Jake couldn't break the encryption. It was military grade Korath security, but he didn't need to break. "I've just needed to analyze the metadata, look at the Timestamps, he told Krell and Unit 7, displaying the communication logs. These messages were sent minutes before each incident affecting me or my allies, before my assignment was flagged, before Silith was attacked, before. He pulled up another log. The 4. A Thaurine student who defended me in class was suddenly transferred to a different program. I thought that transfer was voluntary, Unit 7 said. So did I. Jake replied, but look at the timing. Vertine sent an encrypted message. Then 6 hours later, the transfer was processed. That could be coincidence, Krell said, though his tone suggested he didn't believe it. 1 is coincidence. Jake said, 2 is suspicious. 17 is a pattern. He highlighted message after message, each corresponding to an event that either hurt Jake directly or damaged his reputation. He's been orchestrating this since I arrived, Jake said, building a case. Removing my allies, creating a narrative. But why? Krell asked, what does he gain from expelling 1 human student? Jake pulled up a new file. This one a proposal document from 6 months before his arrival. This, he said. The document outlined a plan to petition the Galactic Council for restrictions on human expansion into space. It cited humanity's unpredictable nature, their rapid technological adaptation, their history of warfare. Vertine is part of a faction that wants to quarantine Earth. Unit 7 observed, your success at the Academy undermines their argument. If 1 human can excel here, it suggests the species is not as dangerous as they claim. So he needs to prove I'm either a cheat or a failure. Jake concluded, discredit me. Discredit humanity. Krell's body pulsed with anger. This is dishonorable on multiple levels. We must expose him. We can't. Jake said, not yet. We have circumstantial evidence, but nothing concrete. The encrypted messages could be about anything. We need him to make a mistake. Or, Unit 7 suggested, we need to create an opportunity for him to reveal himself. Jake looked at the Thaurine fragment with new respect. You have an idea. I have a logical extrapolation. Unit 7 replied, Vertine believes you are alone and vulnerable. He believes he has successfully isolated you. What if we reinforce that belief? Make him think his plan is working? Jake asked. Then wait for him to overreach? Precisely. Over the next week, Jake allowed himself to appear defeated. He stopped attending study groups. He submitted mediocre work. He avoided his friends publicly, though they continued to meet in secret to outside observers. The human appeared to be crumbling under pressure. Everett took the bait. Another assignment was flagged, this one with forged evidence suggesting Jake had stolen answers from a Korath student's work. It was the 3rd violation, enough for expulsion, but this time, Vertine had been careless. The forged evidence included file access logs that showed Jake had supposedly viewed the Korath students' work, but Jake had been in a simulation chamber at the exact time the log showed him accessing the files in simulation chambers. Kept independent verification records for safety reasons. He made his mistake, Jake said, showing the discrepancy to Tixron. He was so focused on framing me that he didn't verify my alibi. Tixron examined the evidence, his skin shifting through rapid color changes. This proves the accusation is false, he said. But it does not prove Vertine is responsible for the forgery, not by itself. Jake agreed, but combined with everything else, the pattern of communications, the timing of incidents, the coordinated campaign, it's enough to demand an investigation, one that Vertine can't control. Tixron was quiet for a long moment. You understand that if you pursue this, you will make powerful enemies. Vertine has allies throughout the Academy and beyond. I already have enemies, Jake said. The question is whether I'm going to let them. When Tixron's skin settled into a determined blue. Very well, he said. I will bring this before the full Academy Council, but you must be prepared for what comes. Next, the final examination is in 2 weeks. If Vertine suspects you are onto him, he may take more drastic action. Jake nodded. I'm ready. But as he left Tixron's office, he wondered if that was true had uncovered a conspiracy that went beyond simple prejudice people with real power wanted. Humanity kept in check, and now he'd put himself directly in their path. The final examination would be more than just a test of knowledge. It would be a battle for humanity's future in the stars. The Crucible lived up to its name. 147 candidates entered the final examination complex, a massive facility that combined virtual simulation with physical challenges across 3 levels. Teams of 4 would face scenarios, testing everything learned during their time at the Academy. Jake's team himself, Krell, Unit 7, and Silith gathered in the staging area, along with 36 other teams. Magistrate Vertine stood on the observation platform above, his golden skin gleaming under the harsh lights. His presence wasn't unusual. Senior officials often observed the Crucible, but Jake noticed how Vertine's eyes tracked him specifically. Algoritha's expression held something cold and calculating. He knows we're investigating him, Silith whispered, her leaves rustling nervously. Let him know, Jake replied. We've got evidence. We've got all eyes, and we're ready. The first stage began, a diplomatic crisis simulation, where teams had to negotiate peace between 3 warring factions. Jake's team excelled, combining Unit 7's logical analysis with Krell's tactical knowledge and Silith's empathetic approach. Jake contributed by recognizing patterns in the factions, demands that revealed their true priorities. They completed the stage in the top 5 teams. The second stage tested technical knowledge through a series of engineering challenges. Teams had to repair damaged systems, optimize energy grids, and solve complex mathematical problems under time pressure again. Jake's team performed well, though Jake struggled with the xenotechnology components until Unit 7 walked him through the alien approaches. By the third stage, they were ranked 2nd overall. That's when things went wrong. The third stage loaded them into a scenario eerily familiar to Jake, a hostage situation on a space station, with civilians trapped and hostile forces demanding concessions. But something felt off about the scenario parameters. The hostiles' demands don't make logical sense. Unit 7 observed. They're asking for resources they couldn't transport and making threats they can't execute. Jake studied the scenario more carefully. Then he saw it. Embedded in the background data was information about recent human colony activities, about Earth's expansion into nearby systems. This wasn't a generic scenario. This was specifically designed to make humanity look dangerous. They're testing whether I'll choose human interests over galactic peace, Jake said quietly. Vertine designed this scenario. Krell's body darkened with anger. That violates examination protocols. Scenarios must be neutral. We should file a protest, Silith suggested. No, Jake said. That's what he wants. He wants me to look like I'm making excuses, playing the victim. So what do we do? Unit 7 asked. Jake smiled grimly. We solve it anyway, but we solve it in a way that shows cooperation, not conflict. He began working through the scenario, but instead of following the obvious paths, negotiate or use force, he looked for a third option. The hostile forces were demanding human colonies withdraw from a disputed sector. The human colonists insisted they had legitimate claims. Neither side would budge. What if both sides are right? Jake proposed. What if the sector can support both human colonies and the indigenous population? But they need to coordinate resource usage. He started mapping out a solution that involved shared governance, resource allocation based on actual needs rather than claims, and a monitoring system to ensure compliance. It took longer than a simple Military solution would have their time ranking dropped from 2nd to 8th, but when the scenario ended, the evaluation AI delivered an unexpected result. Optimal solution achieved. Previous teams utilized force or capitulation. Team Reeves demonstrated creative problem-solving and genuine diplomacy. As they exited the scenario, Jake saw Vertine's expression twist with frustration. The plan had backfired. The 4th stage tested physical and mental endurance through a grueling obstacle course combined with rapid fire. Knowledge questions. Jake's team helped each other through it, with Krell's strength overcoming physical barriers and Silith's knowledge of biology, answering questions about alien ecosystems. They finished 6th overall. Exhausted but functional, then came the 5th and final stage. The scenario that loaded was immediately concerning. A space station experiencing catastrophic system failures, with multiple critical problems occurring simultaneously: hull breaches, reactor overload, life support failure, and rogue security systems. It was too much for one team to handle. "This is impossible," Krell said, analyzing the cascade of failures. "Even with perfect coordination, we cannot address all critical systems before a catastrophic failure." Unit 7's tendrils flickered through calculations. "Confirmed. No single team can complete this scenario successfully. The math doesn't work." Jake felt his combat instincts engage. This was familiar territory, impossible situations with too many problems and too little time. "It's not designed for one team," he said suddenly. "Look at the system failures. They're distributed across different sections of the station. Sections that would each challenge a team's specific strengths." He pulled up the station schematic and highlighted different zones. "These hull breaches require physical strength to seal Rexian specialty. This biological contamination needs someone who understands alien ecosystems, Felorian specialty. The computational override of the security system, Thorine specialty. And the reactor requires understanding human-designed safety systems because this station was built using Earth technology. We're supposed to work with other teams," Scylla said, her leaves brightening with understanding. "But teams compete against each other." Krell objected. "That's the whole point of the Crucible. Maybe that's the real test." Jake said, "Whether we can put aside competition for cooperation." He opened communications to the other teams still in the simulation. "This is Team Reeves." He broadcast, "We believe this scenario requires inter-team cooperation. We're proposing a coordinated approach." Silence greeted his announcement. Then a Korath team leader responded, "Why should we trust a human?" "Because we all fail if we don't work together." Jake said simply, "Check the math. No single team can solve this." More silence, and Commander Krell surprised everyone by speaking up. "I vouch for the human," he said. "He has proven himself repeatedly. If he says cooperation is required, I believe him." One by one, other teams began to respond. Not all of them. Some refused to abandon the competitive approach, but enough teams agreed to coordinate. Jake found himself organizing a massive collaborative effort, assigning teams to different sections based on their strengths, coordinating timing, sharing resources. It was chaotic and messy, and nothing like the clean simulations they'd practiced. It was real as teams worked together. The scenario began to resolve. Hull breaches were sealed. Contamination was contained. Security systems were overridden. Jake's team reached the reactor core with Unit 7's help navigating the damaged systems. The safety protocols were indeed based on human designs, specifically on nuclear reactor technology from Earth's mid-21st century. Jake recognized the fail-safe patterns and began the shutdown sequence. 30 seconds to critical failure. The simulation AI announced. Jake's hands moved across the controls, muscle memory from his engineering training guiding him. 10 seconds. He initiated the final safety lockdown. 5 seconds. The reactor stabilized across the station. All critical systems came back online. The simulation ended. For a moment, there was silence. In the examination complex, then the evaluation results appeared. Unprecedented solution. 16 teams achieved successful cooperation. This represents the highest collective success rate in Crucible history. The staging area erupted with celebration teams that had been rivals for months were congratulating each other. Sharing their experiences, Jake felt exhausted but satisfied. He'd done it then, Magistrate. Varteen's voice cut through the celebration. Candidate Reeves, you are to report to the disciplinary committee immediately. The room went quiet. Varteen descended from the observation platform, flanked by 2 security officers. You stand accused of cheating through unauthorized collaboration during a competitive examination. Jake felt his team move to support him. Other students were gathering, their expressions confused and angry. The scenario required collaboration. Jake said calmly, that was the whole point. The scenario required individual team performance. Varteen countered, you manipulated other candidates into violating examination protocols. Before Jake could respond, Senior Evaluator Tixron entered. The complex behind him walked 3 members of the Academy Council and, to Jake's surprise, a human woman in formal diplomatic attire. Magistrate Varteen, Tixron said, his skin displaying formal authority colors. This proceeding is premature. Varteen's expression tightened. The violation is clear. The scenario was rigged. The human diplomat interrupted. I am Ambassador Chen Wei, representing Earth's diplomatic mission. We've been conducting our own investigation into bias against human students. She activated a holographic display. This final scenario was designed by Magistrate Varteen personally. It was specifically calibrated to be impossible for candidate Reeves to solve alone while appearing to test leadership and crisis management. The expectation was that he would fail or would attempt unauthorized collaboration and be expelled for either outcome. Varteen's golden skin paled. That is a baseless accusation. We have the original scenario files. Ambassador Chen continued, complete with notes detailing the intended outcome.